There he is. Got to keep it to my pen. Didn't even wait for my intro. He just decided he was comfortable. Comfortable Danny just waltzing on in. Hi, Comfortable Danny.
How are you? I'm good. Nice and comfy.
How was your weekend?
Drink my emergency.
Are you sick?
No, but I'm trying to be cautious.
All right, fair enough.
The weekend was good. Worked a ton, obviously, because there was so much MMA.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the holidays.
Yeah, for sure. The holidays are always nice. But it was a good weekend of MMA. I mean, the fights both in Hawaii and Milwaukee were amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to watch Invicta, but I saw a few positive things out there. So
I'll be candid, and I feel ashamed about this, but I'm not going to lie to the audience. I forgot Invicta was on until like on my feed there was like, "Hey, there's Invicta fights going." I was like, "My bad."
It's hard when there's so much MMA going on in boxing too. Canelo was fighting here in New York. So
fighting, well,
competing, exercising,
getting light work is what he was getting. I mean, that was a massacre. But okay, how are the calls today, my friend?
The calls were amazing, as always. The fans just keep getting.
You know what? I feel like they're really showing up these days.
Yeah, man, they really are. They really are.
All right. Well, you know what, Maestro? You have the keys to the car.
Okay, let's do it. Well, let's keep talking about Dan Hooker because I don't want to go back and forth. So let's just get that out of the way real quick. Yep. I have a few thoughts as well on that fight.
Hey, Luke. This is Drew from the home of poverty and overdoses, Lewiston, Maine. So that Dan Hooker fight, what the fuck?
That was literally my reaction, and you couldn't have said it better. I agree with you 100%.
Don't you think it's sick when people are like, yeah?
Yeah, because I was looking at my timeline, and everybody's praising him, and I'm like, the only tweet that I wrote about that fight, I said, Dan Hooker, tough as hell, yeah. But I said that at the end. The first thing was like, yo, that fight should have been stopped earlier. Like, I did not need to see that. We knew who the winner was way before it got stopped.
Yeah.
What's the point of MMA? To find out who's the best fighter, right? We found out who was the best fighter in that fight, at least that night, way before that stoppage.
Good point.
That's what we're trying to find out here. We're not trying to find out if somebody can kill another man. That's not what we're trying to find out over here. We're trying to find out who the better fighter is, and we got that answer, deep into the second round. There was no need for a third. And yeah, it's just rough watching. And I think there is a time and place to let a fighter take a beating, as bad as that sound. But you want to do that in championship rounds. You want to do that. Also, you want to save those wars towards the end of your career when you're at the top. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right before you walk out. Dan Hooker, man, he's so young. He's so promising. This was his first real big fight.
He's only 28.
Yeah. This was his first fight, I believe, from a top 5 guy. No need to go through that. No need to go through that. Look, you're not having a good night. You're slow. You're not hitting hard. You're giving me absolutely no reason that you're going to come back. Because it's not like he's trying to take Edson down, and it's not like he's throwing haymakers and, almost landing him. None of that was present. He was just taking punishment. And, Hooker is going to do his job, and he's going to try to stay in there as long as he can, so you can't blame him. That's when the corner has to step in or the refs have to be smarter. Someone has to do it.
Okay, Dan Hooker in his last fight, now I don't know if he's getting a bump in pay or if they took care of him. Do you know what he made at UFC 226 when he knocked out Gilbert Burns? And this was his winning total.
Yeah, that was an amazing fight, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great fight. Do you know what he made?
What, 20?
Total, he made 30, 60,000.
Okay.
That means he probably made 30,000 to fly from New Zealand to take that kind of a beating. Yo, it ain't worth it, man.
It ain't worth it.
It ain't worth it. You got to be kidding me. It's not. Again, everyone's like, well, you hating on Dan Hooker? And what planet am I hating on Dan Hooker? Of course not. I'm hating on how sick it is that we're like, this is what it's all about. Yep. This has got nothing to do with what it's all about.
Yeah, if you're an MMA fan, you want to watch MMA. You want to watch fights. In order for fights to happen, fighters need to be healthy and fighters need to be, in the right condition to fight. And putting them through that, they're not going to last long. Knock on wood, hopefully this is, nothing on Dan Hooker and he can come back and, he's perfectly fine. I'm sure he will. He's a young guy.
So only the beating I think he's ever taken too, by the way.
Yeah. But still, you want to stay away from these because sometimes you only need that one fight, So, yeah.
Also, that call was hilarious. What was it?
Yeah,
Overdosing and what?
Well, he's had this is a frequent caller.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, it's either the shithole of whatever or the impoverished whatever. So this one he switched it up on us and
overdosing.
Said overdosing. Yeah.
You know what? Sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right, next.
All right. Well, let's talk about the main event of UFC on Fox 31. A lot to discuss there.
Okay.
How's it going, Mr. Luke Thomas? Danny Segura. This is Charles Jalen Ware calling out of Atlanta, Georgia. My question is about Kevin Lee. He talked a lot of smack about Khabib and the hole that he can exploit. Based on his performance against Iaquinta Saturday night, what holes do you think Khabib can exploit if him and Kevin Lee ever match up? And how do you think a rematch between a Khabib versus Iaquinta would go? Me personally, I think it'd go the same way. Iaquinta would do better, but Khabib still beat him all 5 rounds. Let me hear your thoughts on that, my man. Thanks for taking my call. Keep doing what you're doing. I love the show, my man. Thanks.
Hey, shouts out to Charles Yellen from Atlanta, Georgia. He always calls. I don't feature him all the time because I also want to give opportunity to other callers.
Yeah.
But, this tunes into the show, all the time. And, shouts out to
I went
him.
to high school in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
How was it?
I don't live in Atlanta anymore.
Okay, so we'll just leave it at
Atlanta's fine. Atlanta's
I've never
fine. The
been.
women are beautiful, but,
Yeah.
it's the South. I mean, people, they like Waffle House down there. What can you say?
I like Waffle House.
Okay. You and Kid Rock, but you get the idea. It's not a cultural
Dude, everybody
touchdown.
in Florida, South Florida, all the people from South Florida know this. Waffle House is the place you hit up at 4 a.m.
No, I get it. I've had them scattered, smothered, covered, diced. I had the whole bit. I'm just saying.
Nice hash browns, eggs.
I'm just saying. It's like the South is full of beautiful women and uninteresting people. I'll put it that way. All right, which I know is going to get everyone enraged, but I don't. That's my life. Okay. What do we?
All right, so Al, he called out. He wants this shot at
Yes.
Khabib.
So
What do you think of a rematch there?
I didn't
what do
get a
you think
chance
should
to
be next
really.
for him?
I didn't get a chance to really dig into it in Monday Morning Analyst, but I went back and I watched the Khabib fight too.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, what's Al really good at? His takedown defense, I would say, is good. What he's really good at is he doesn't allow you to do much to him on the ground. He's good at either getting up or at least moving in transition or blocking shots or defending the submission or it's hard to take real full advantage of it. But a guy like Khabib can just take you down and hold you down or at least put himself in a controlling position to accumulate points. And on the striking side, Al is a better striker than Khabib, but I think Khabib's striking at this point, we got to kind of say it's underrated. I think his speed is underrated. I think his timing is underrated.
Power.
But I think the caller's right. I think Al would do better. I think it'd be much more competitive. It's just really hard to pick against Khabib right now.
Yeah,
I just can't. I can't bring myself to do that.
Yeah. I don't see him beating Khabib, although I would say his style is a very good style to have if you're facing someone like Khabib. And we saw, what it did when they actually fought. They went all 5 rounds. He's got pretty good takedown defense. He's tough as nails. He's willing to take a punch to give one. His jab is really good. Moves well. Just a very well-rounded fighter. What's his face? Iaquinta is. So,
Yes.
yeah, I can totally see him do better, obviously, with a full camp. But my thing is also, having Al being healthy, because I know he's had certain issues before in the past. But I think when Al is healthy, dude, he's one of the best. I think he's a top 5 lightweight.
That's probably right. Yep.
I think his
When healthy, yes.
Yeah, his performance outside of the cage, like the way he carries himself in the media a lot, I think it kind of takes away a little bit because people just see him as I don't know.
They see him as a big jokester.
Yeah, exactly. They don't take him as a world-class fighter.
Yeah, what Saturday showed me was, first of all, how gangster was that Sopranos walkout. It was so good.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Al, I see you. But to me, what you got from that was not like a super serious, but an appropriately serious, committed, veteran performance. People see him as the guy who beat Masvidal in Fairfax, Virginia, and then we're like, you're going to boo me? Well, F you. And I guess to an extent that's kind of who he is, but what you're seeing is a much more grown-up, thoughtful Al who's making better decisions, I think, inside and outside of the cage as well.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think should be next for him? Obviously not Khabib. He's not getting that rematch.
Yeah, probably not.
Anytime soon, but
I don't know. Edson Barboza would be a good one.
Edson would be fine, yeah.
Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, any of those guys would be good.
Yeah.
There's really no way. By the way, he said the Tony Ferguson fight was what he'd like.
He also threw out there Conor McGregor, which I saw, a few people tweet about it.
I think Al's a bad matchup for Conor. I know people are going to go crazy over that. I think he's
so
a bad matchup for him because he's hard to hurt. His cardio is phenomenal. He hits hard. He has good boxing. He has good timing. Yeah, the whole bit. I think the Tony Ferguson one is interesting only because Tony's such a risk taker, and Al is a guy who takes advantage of the mistakes that come from unnecessary risk. It's like an interesting matchup. Tony's beaten really amazing guys. Frankly, his resume is better at this stage than Al's. Yeah. But that's a matchup that gets my interest for sure.
Yeah, 100%. The only thing I would like to add to that is that I do feel like Tony Ferguson is just, I wouldn't say levels above as far as skill-wise, but as far as the work he's done in the division, he should be getting either a money fight with Conor McGregor or maybe even, Max Holloway or fight for the title, Yes. I think he should fight for the title next.
Tony should be, doing Tony things at the top of the division. Yeah,
exactly, yeah. By the way, one quick thing that I wanted to add.
Yes, please.
On your Monday Morning Analyst, when you have the back, when you're saying you weren't really sure what you can do from the position while having like a figure four in the back and Iaquinta's defending with the telephone.
Yeah.
You can just, wrap around, go underneath that arm and go and, get grip on the opposite shoulder.
And go to mount.
Yeah, let go of the triangle, and then you can turn into an arm triangle.
You can do that, but good luck doing that to Al. Here's my point. My point is you can do arm bars from there, from the back. You can do.
You have to isolate the arm.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do from there. If they're opening up this arm, there's ways to scoop it and do it. Here's the point. That level of sophistication is going to take anybody, including Kevin Lee, who's, by the way, very good on the ground.
Yeah.
At least for MMA purposes. We're talking years of advancement. What I'm saying to you is, it's a good way to clarify it, actually. What I'm saying to you is, we need best practices that I'm going to say average UFC fighter, and what I mean by that is the average high-level fighter, can more basically employ, rather than this constant searching for the neck, and the guy is just always two-on-oneing it, hand defending, and doing this. We're getting into stalemates constantly. Your point is there are answers to that. My point is, in MMA, the guys who are in sport jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of guys who could do that. In MMA, there's virtually nobody that good.
Yeah.
Crone Gracie is a difference. He can do it, right? But that's what you have to be. You got to be that good. I'm talking about something that can be democratized across a wider array of fighters.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's true. All right, let's move on now. Let's talk about the other side of the equation, Mr. Kevin Lee.
All right.
Hey, this is Phil from Atlanta, Georgia. I just have one quick question about Kevin Lee. So now, after his loss on Saturday night, who do you see him fighting next? Does a rematch with Edson Barboza seem likely? Okay, enjoy the show. I'll hang up now. Thank you.
Can I tell you who I'm feeling? I don't know that I want to see another Edson Barboza fight because
I don't either. It happened so recent.
That, and it's like what Kevin Lee has to work on is not really his ground game. Like when he beat Al on the ground. And again, I'm not saying every time they were on the ground, but look at the first fight. He won the second round. How did he win the second round in the first fight? On the ground.
Yeah.
How did he score points in this one? On the ground. He got a couple of nice shots here or there, but like his ground game is phenomenal. That's how he beat Edson. And moving to mount, by the way.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is he needs growth in his striking, and it's come a long way, and he's so much better. But what about Anthony Pettis? They had Pettis and Gaethje rumored, but Gaethje was out there calling for other people this weekend. So that seems like a one that could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, and Pettis coming off that Ferguson loss, so
exactly.
It makes sense there. Kevin Lee did mention that he really wants that 165-pound weight class, but at least we don't know that it's going to come anytime soon. So he did mention that maybe welterweight might interest him because the cuts are getting harder. I would throw out there recent winner Gunnar Nelson.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
Gunner's not a big guy.
And that'd be
for that division.
That's a bad matchup for Kevin right now on the feet. Well, that's a tough matchup for him. That's a tough matchup for him. Kevin's here's the other thing about Kevin that people are going to bury him. I had someone saying this on Twitter to me the other day. They were like, I was teasing that we were going to do the Monday Morning Analyst, and I was saying like, we're going to talk about why Kevin Lee or why I'll beat Kevin. And whenever I do that, I always get two kinds of responses. Like, how did Max beat Brian? And people always go, he punched him in the face, bro. It's like, thank you for this illuminating conversation. But the other one is that, you see it all the time. Kevin Lee sucks, bro. He was overrated. No. Kevin Lee's 26. And I don't know how he's going to progress, but Al Iaquinta's what, 31?
Yeah.
Was Al as good as Kevin Lee is now 5 years ago? I would submit to you he wasn't. I would submit to you that he wasn't. Kevin Lee is 26 years old, and he keeps trying to reach for that next ladder rung. And he's coming up a little bit short. But notice what the words I'm saying are, a little bit short. I am a big believer in Kevin Lee's ability. I'm a big believer in how good he is. I just think he has to keep going a little bit, and he'll round those corners.
Yeah. Also, like, he might just be fighting in a wrong weight class, too. Like, we got to consider that, too. Like, there's so many fighters that are good and just can't reach that next level. And when you're at the very top, just little things can make huge differences. Maybe just 5 extra pounds just turns them into a killer. You know, so who knows?
Yep.
But yeah, so let's keep talking about UFC Milwaukee. This caller had an interesting question.
Hey, Luke. Hey, Danny. This is John from Lathrop Village, Michigan. And I went into Milwaukee for the Fox Fight Night, and I was looking around the stands, saw a lot of empty seats there, and I then, between fights, I was looking on my phone, and I noticed that they had a Groupon for this fight where you could have gotten like 37% off the lower level tickets. Luke, have you ever heard of a UFC event ever needing a Groupon to sell tickets? Just wondering. Really enjoyed the show. Thanks for great work. Bye.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so I don't even know where I'm going with that question, but have you ever even used Groupon? I haven't.
I think I used Groupon once.
Is it a thing where you have to buy something or whatever the case is with a lot of, like, you got to get like several people on board? Is that what it is?
Not necessarily. Here, I could show you a Groupon. I had a Groupon once for like a hot air balloon experience.
Okay.
Because a friend of mine recommended it.
Here in the U.S.?
Yeah, here in the U.S. Yeah. Yeah, you can do Groupons for meals.
Yeah.
You can do Groupons, like if you order certain things or to buy stuff. I've heard of Groupons, like here you go. You can go to the Tanning Spot NYC. Instead of $40, it's 19, bro. 19.
What's the difference from like do you have to do something? You have to pay for Groupon? What do you?
Yeah, you pay for it. It's like, but they essentially serve as like an advertising conduit for it. Like it's like you want to have a sale on something, they just have a much bigger reach about it, and then I guess they take a cut from all this kind of stuff too. So it's like their platform to advertise your sale, something like that. In any event, I've seen other promoters do it. I've never seen UFC do it. I'm not saying they never have before. That's new for me. The revised attendance was up from 7,000. It was closer to about 10. It was sub 10. It was like 9.9 and some change. Here's the thing about that. First of all, the ratings were much better this time around.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they were amazing, but they were better. They were definitely better, number one. Number two, like the thing about it is Dana White went on First Take last week, which is one of ESPN's top programs. He went on Get Up, which is their top program. And I could be wrong about this. If I am, by all means, correct me. But I saw the videos that they put on YouTube. I did not watch them live, but I watched the YouTube ones, the full ones. He didn't mention that event one time. And he went on 2 different ESPN shows in studio. It's not like they went out of their way to promote that one hardcore. Yeah. They didn't even have a local guy in the main event. They had a bunch of Rufus Sport guys. They had a bit of a rough night, but okay, neither here nor there. Like, what am I supposed to say? They barely promoted it. Like, it did well in the ratings. Okay,
it was a fantastic card, man. If you were a fan, you were there that night. It was a pretty good fight.
Also, if the UFC's had a problem recently, it's actually not so much been with attendance. It's been with declining ratings in pay-per-view. This one was a bit of the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to read too much into it.
Yeah. All right, with that out of the way, let's move on and let's talk about Fox, sort of the big picture, and now the UFC transitioning to ESPN.
All right.
Hey guys, it's Alexandria representing the 352. My question is, will you miss Big Fox, or are you more excited for ESPN Plus? Let me know. Thanks, guys.
What is the 352?
Gainesville. No?
Is it?
I think so. Yeah, she calls from Gainesville.
Is that right?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is Gainesville.
Shouts out to Gainesville.
Someone's got to. I'm such a hater. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, hey, someone's got to hate.
Yeah, you know what? That's like T.I. said, haters, time to get on your job. And I got my hard hat and I went to work. Okay. What was the question? Oh, am I going to miss Big Fox? You know what? I've said.
Or are you excited for ESPN?
I'm more excited for ESPN because here's what it looks like to me. The ESPN deal is about many things. One of which, of course, is no one really knows. Like, what was interesting about the Fox deal? I made this point on my radio show. What was interesting about the Fox deal is, think about the Fox deal, Danny. It was 2011, yeah? It kicked in 2012, but it was 2011. They announced it. And what they said was, do you remember this quote from Lorenzo Fertitta? He said, if by the end of the Fox deal, if all we've added is another 100,000 subscribers or another 100,000 buyers of pay-per-view, then if nothing else works, that alone will have made the deal worth it. And we are so far from that. And you could blame a lot of things that the UFC had control over, namely the glut of shows, for example. But what that deal really told you back then was people just believed in the continuity of television in 2011. Everyone thought, let's just double down on this medium. And what happened is underneath their feet and everybody else's feet during that time is television changed. This deal with ESPN is interesting to me because it's somewhat future-proof.
Yeah.
Is ESPN going to stay the way it is? Is streaming the future? No one really knows. Maybe it's a combination of both. This deal is built in as a challenge to the last one, which really gives me some hope about it. That's why I'm really excited about it. But yeah, I'm going to miss Fox, man. Those FS1 shows can die in a fire. Seriously, if FS1 was a person, not FS1, if the FS1 shows were a person, I would lock it in a coffin, set it on fire, and then after it burned, chuck the ashes in water so that no one would ever find it again. Those 10 p.m. start times.
Man, you've planned this out.
Those 10 p.m. start times, I mean, I can't tell you how much life I've lost as a consequence of them.
Yeah,
okay.
Those were brutal. I'm more looking forward to the ESPN rather than, being sad and missing Fox.
But the big Fox shows?
But the big Fox shows
8 p.m. start
great.
time, 4 fights. I loved those shows.
Awesome. Yeah.
Loved them.
Those were awesome. Favorite Fox memory? UFC and Fox memory.
Nate Diaz giving Benson Henderson the finger.
Oh, okay.
Or Nate Diaz going, Conor McGregor, you took everything I worked for, MFer. That's a pretty good one, too.
Yeah, those are pretty good. Mine involves Nate Diaz, too.
Oh, yeah? That's a great one as well.
That was the best. Yeah, that was good internet right there.
That was good internet.
Yeah. Nate Diaz and Fox, man.
Bro, what a treasure he is, huh?
Yeah, he really took advantage. Probably the fighter who benefited most out of the Fox deal was Nate Diaz.
That's actually a great question. Which fighter benefited most? That's a really interesting one.
Nate Diaz got that Conor McGregor fight. It changed his career.
Yeah, it did. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yep, that's actually a really good point. Yep.
All right, let's move on. So UFC Milwaukee happened this weekend, but also at kind of almost the same time, Bellator was going on in Hawaii.
It did.
So let's talk about that.
Hey, Luke, this is Joel. I'm calling from Honolulu International Airport on my way back to Los Angeles after watching Bellator 213 on Saturday night. And wow, what a card it was. The question I have for you, Luke, is this weekend I saw what I thought to be Bellator emerging from the shadow of the UFC and really coming into their own. It was a heck of a promotion. Where do you see the state of competition between the UFC and Bellator over the next few years? And do you think that the Honolulu card will mark a turning point where we move away from what seems to be the cult of personality surrounding Dana White and UFC and more towards respect for the athletes, respect for the sport and for martial arts, and seeing the athletes get their due? Would love to hear your opinion. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it. Aloha from Honolulu.
Super cool. What a great call and what a great question.
Yeah.
I'm always going to keep repeating this. Look at who has the talent share. The UFC still has well in excess of 80% of the world's top talent. And so as long as that is the case, this notion of like Bellator really challenging them for supremacy, I think is a little bit premature. However, let's see how things shake out. Let's see what acquisitions they make. But the biggest thing for me is like Scott Coker knows his MMA and Rich Chow knows his MMA.
Yep.
And what they understand about MMA, and all promoters understand it to varying degrees, but some celebrate it more, is and they've been doing it for a while, but the UFC just turns MMA into banquet food, where it's all the same and it's just designed to be processed at scale. And when they take time to really promote something as special, lo and behold, it comes out pretty special, right? Max versus Ortega. Well, I thought they did a really good job of promoting that fight, for example. Yeah. But I made this point before. The individual matters so greatly in MMA, but so do the shared communal roots that we all have. You don't really know Santiago Ponzinibbio until you hear him speak in that Argentine accent. I mean, in Spanish with the Argentine accent. And he's out there, dude. He met the leader of Argentina. He's getting keys to the city, and he's coming out to, I don't think it was Soda Stereo, it was some other famous Argentine rock band. And the crowd is responding to him. Dude, that is Santiago Ponzinibbio, right? When Ilima McFarlane is coming out with these traditional Hawaiian, I don't even know what the word would be to describe them, but these interesting intros, and she's wearing the colors of her people, and these guys are doing these traditional dances and these greetings. Dude, that is Ilima McFarlane.
Gives you chills, right?
You don't know these people until you see that. Yeah. That is who you are. And I would say this to you, Danny. You are, to me, I don't know how you feel about it. I would actually ask you how you feel. I have somewhat of a better appreciation of this by virtue of who I married in this world. But I have heard you, we speak English to each other, and I've heard you talk to my wife. I got a better sense of you when I saw you two interact. Your Spanish sounds the same as hers to my ear. It's like, dude, you're both things at this point, but that is who you are. And Bellator celebrates that, and it is awesome. It's awesome. How do you agree with me, and how do you feel about that question?
Oh, for sure. As far as language-wise, like, it almost feels like, you know, if I'm thinking in English, it's almost different than when I'm thinking in Spanish, and I feel like a lot of people who are bilingual or trilingual can, you know, maybe feel the same way. And in a way, you get to share, you know, language is so important. A lot of aspects of your personality and who you are can come across when I speak Spanish. Then, you know, if I speak in English, you know, they would probably be absent.
Your Spanish is faster. I've noticed that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's my native tongue. I grew up speaking Spanish. I lived in Colombia till I was 12 years old. You know, that's my first language. And yeah, what Bellator is doing, like taking these fights to, you know, the headliners where they're from, where they're supposed to be. I mean, that's just genius. Not only that, but like, you also feel different towards someone when you see other people react to that person in a certain way.
Yes.
For example, me watching The Leech fight in China, beating Zach Otto, if I would have seen that in Milwaukee,
who cares?
Nobody cares. But the standing ovation that guy got, and everybody cheering for him in the arena, same thing with Ilima McFarlane this Saturday, it gives you a different sense of who that person is and also what that person means to others as well. So, yeah, it is super important. But as far as this question goes, I think, obviously, the race, it's still pretty far. The UFC is the leader here, but, you know, Bellator is doing really good things. The DAZN deal. Not only that, but and you've touched about this. You're like, well, in the past, who's Bellator? What's their identity? It seems like they're having an identity crisis. This weekend, I've got a pretty good look at who Bellator is.
Agreed.
Main event on Friday, Bellator guys. Two Bellator guys, Brent Primus versus Mike Chandler. Great fight. Fantastic fight, actually. But then you also have the Frank Mir fighting in the co-main. You also have the big names of the UFC. Same thing on Saturday. Lyoto Machida making his debut, but Ilima was the star. You know what I'm saying? So Bellator is now showing, like, look, we got all these assets. We got all these acquisitions. We can be the home for the former UFC fighters, the former legends, but we can also bring our talent in.
And look, some people are so famous that they transcend territory, but imagine Conor never fought in Dublin. What would you have missed out on in that show?
Yep.
You don't know these people until you know who they are when they are. It's e pluribus unum, out of many one.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it takes someone like Ilima McFarlane. If she was in the UFC, maybe she would beat Shevchenko. I don't know. Probably not, but let's just say she would.
Yeah.
Would that be her would that be her legacy? It's like, I suppose so. But now, seeing her in this environment, she gets a much greater degree of visibility, not by virtue of being in the main event, but by seeing she is representative of this entire population, and they embrace her as well. Dude, it's a completely different way to promote. It's been missing in the sport. I take my hat off to Bellator. I thought Bellator hit a home run this past weekend.
Yeah, it was great.
Good for them.
Yeah. Plus, all that footage from Hawaii was sick.
Yeah, I was bitter about that.
Yeah, you kind of get tired of, like, the same backdrop and, like, same arena.
It's nice. It's a round world, man. Go see it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. This is not really MMA related, but I thought it was a fair question.
Okay.
Hey, Luke, it's Jake calling in from Western Mass. I know you're more of a Taco Bell kind of guy, but my question for you is, do you think you could finish an entire large 2-topping pizza in one sitting? I'm talking one glass of water, soda, whatever you do, but in one sitting, can you crush a whole large pizza? All right. If so, I'd like to see you post it on social media.
You ever seen those eating challenges? In fact, bodybuilders do it on like the 10,000 calorie challenge. Like guys like
12 eggs or something.
Yeah, no, dude, to get 10,000 calories, you got to do a lot more than that. But like Max Tuning does a 10,000 calorie challenge, and Brian Shaw, world's strongest man, 4-time world's strongest man.
Yes, yeah.
He did one. I think it was like either a 15 or a 20,000 calorie challenge that he got up to. Now he's 400 plus pounds, but
Yeah.
I have no desire to try that. I have not. There's nothing I watch about that, and I'm like, wow, man, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like when you actually see what someone has to do to get to 10,000 calories,
That's
it's gross, bro.
Yeah.
So could I do it? What's one sitting? An hour?
Yeah.
About how long a dinner lasts, right?
Yeah.
About probably I could. I'm not even going to come close to attempting.
I've come close to finishing a whole pie by myself.
A large?
Yeah.
With toppings or just cheese?
Pepperoni. What's the most you've ever eaten? Like, have you ever remembered like whole?
Oh, when I was in college, I was in a fraternity and we did the Taco Bell gallon of milk challenge.
What? That sounds horrible.
Oh, it was real bad. So we went to Taco Bell and they didn't tell us we were doing this. We thought it was just the Taco Bell challenge.
Oh, wait, was this like a hazing?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know where hazing comes from, by the way, right? Hazing comes from the military. So what happened was all these rituals of abuse after the GI Bill came. They gave it to all these guys after World War II. They all show up to college, and they're like, hey, look at these games we played, and they sort of entered the philanthropic system, and that's how you get fraternity hazing. I was in a fraternity in college, loved every minute of it. So I know fraternities get a bad name now. I had an awesome time. Trust me. Your boy fried a gazillion brain cells, and I don't regret one single loss of them. In any event, we had a taco eating contest, which I lost. I think I got up to like 7 or something.
Okay.
7 or 8 maybe. Then we got back and we had to finish a gallon of milk, and I think in an hour. And what happens is you can't actually do it. Have you ever drank a gallon of milk? But before, like, what happens is you just end up like, not when I say vomiting, I mean projectile vomiting. So there were garbage bags and cans everywhere, and they made us drink till we all vomited up. These are really stupid games that I cannot defend in a rational basis, other than to say that at college I had a really good time. So there you go.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
Yep.
Fun fact: one time, Chipotle had this promotion. It was like buy one burrito, get another one free.
That's a lot of burritos, bro.
And I was wrestling. So the first weight class that I wrestled in high school was 103 pounds, 103.
Cheeky Tico.
And then I jumped from, literally in one summer, I jumped from 103 to 125.
Wow.
And I was just eating like a madman because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be a senior and weigh 103 pounds. So I ate the most I ever eaten was in one sitting, 2 Chipotle burritos, and I have witnesses.
I don't know if I could do that. That's a lot, dude.
Yeah,
That's
man.
a lot.
That's
All right, let's go through a couple more of these questions before we get to Ray Longo.
Cool. Let's talk about UFC 232, right?
Yep.
Hey, Luke and Danny. I'm Chris from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm curious, looking forward to UFC 232 main event. Who do you guys think has the most to lose? So if Gustafsson loses, is he looking at a very long road back to a title fight, since this will be his 3rd time fighting for a title? When people talk about the greats at light heavyweight, is he going to be just a footnote? And if Jones loses, is he going to be knocked down the list when people talk about the greatest of all time? And will this be a sign that his best fighting days are behind him? Thanks.
Great question. I've actually thought a lot about this. So the truth is, what makes this main event great is not really how capable the fighters are, but to the caller's point, Danny, the stakes involved.
Yep.
I would submit that as much as Gustafsson has to lose, and it's hard to say. I would argue Jones has more to lose because he's never lost before.
Mm-hmm.
However, a loss for Gustafsson would be more career defining, because to his point, if he loses, and let's say it's relatively straightforward, whatever that means, his chances to get a title, unless John goes up to heavyweight, are virtually nil at that point, in which case he'd probably have to go to heavyweight. And there, you would just be sort of marked for life as the guy who was not quite good enough. John losing, he's never lost before, so that would be terrible. But at the same time, he had to have a chance to come back. He could say it's the layoff, blah, 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 blah. So it's close. I would still say John because of it would just tear him down from – the apocalypse is going to happen if John loses.
Yeah.
But there is something permanent about Gustafsson if he loses.
Yeah. I would go with Gus because if John loses, in some sort of strange way, it would spice things up. Now all of a sudden you're like, wait, a third fight with Cormier? That could be interesting. Or he can move up to heavyweight. I mean, he will still remain at the top. Like, his fall wouldn't be bad. If Gus loses, I believe this is his third title shot. It'll just be such a long road to get back at the top. Well, John Jones is still a big name. I mean, if he loses, he can. It wouldn't be a crazy idea if he would just go, okay, I'm moving up to heavyweight and gets a title shot immediately.
Yep.
Wouldn't be crazy at all. But for Gus, a little rougher. So I think the consequences of Gus losing are greater than for John.
Fair enough. I could get on board with that.
All right, so I'm going to get Ray, and then I'm going to leave you with this question.
All right, sounds good. Let's do it.
Prove him wrong.
Hey, Luke. James from New York. As impressive as Holloway looked on Saturday, even though I think Ortega was on a hype train because I really didn't like the competition that he fought, can you tell me why I'm wrong in thinking that Holloway cannot beat 6 of the top 7 guys at 155? I honestly think the only chance he has is against Conor. And I just want you to prove me wrong. So prove me wrong. I don't think that Holloway does anything at 155. Prove me wrong. Thanks, buddy. Great show. Bye-bye.
That's an interesting question. Prove you're wrong. All right, he can only beat Conor in the top 7. Well, let's read out who's in the top 7. Well, top 6 if you're going to include Khabib. So there's Khabib, Tony, Conor, Dustin, for now, Kevin Lee, Edson Barboza, and Justin Gaethje. Well, look, we have to have a degree of humility about this. I'm not Miss Cleo. I don't know exactly how he would do. But here's why there's reasons for optimism. Number one, he hasn't, it appears, a pretty good chin. At 155, it would be only more enabled because the weight cut would be that much less. Number two, as I've said before, what makes Max Holloway so interesting is he takes what they call the basics, but they don't mean basic like a white girl who orders a pumpkin spice latte in October. That's not what they mean by basic. What they mean by basic is foundational. He has all the foundational elements of striking that he has it down pat and then has built a modular game around it. In other words, are you a kickboxer who likes to fight at range? Are you a boxer who likes to fight in close? Are you southpaw? Are you orthodox? Which way do you circle? Do you like to come forward? Do you like to back up? Do you lead? Do you counter strike? Max can adjust his game in a modular way. He's like an AR-15. I hate to make a gun comparison, but let's just make it. An AR-15, what makes it so powerful is a lot of different reasons. One is that it's incredibly modular. You can add a lot of different things to it, scopes, sight posts, grips, all kinds of different lights, all kinds of different things you can add to it or subtract from it on the handguards to make it do a lot of different things. And so Max, in that sense, is just incredibly capable of like whatever that challenge is. He can go into his toolkit and figure out I can do this, 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 and that's a bad matchup for that. So he can make himself a bad matchup to so many different kinds of people. Now, how would his takedown defense and physicality hold up against a Khabib or these other wrestlers? I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but I think it is very foolish to count out a guy like that.